Okay, I'm aware this is going to sound like a weird take, but sometimes increasing the pain is a way of doing those things that you keep putting off because of avoiding boredom. Hi, I'm Dr. Rebecca Block, neuroaffirming executive function coach, and I landed on this realization when I was watching my ADHD spouse change the way that he handled his guitar restringing and practice habits. So I noticed that he was doing something that he hadn't normally done before, which is to stretch out the strings after he had restrung the guitar. And I'd seen him restring his guitar many times before, and I was like, I've never seen you do that. Why are you doing that now? And he said, well, this is the thing you're always supposed to do, but I always skipped doing it because it's really boring, and when I restring the guitar and the amount of time it takes to restring it, I just want to get in and play something. So, in other words, the thing that many of us can relate to, which is put off the tasks that we know we should do, like brushing our teeth twice a day, or putting away the dishes, or making the nutritious food, because it just seems so mind-numbingly boring to do that accepted thing that we know is supposed to happen. So what he would always end up doing is restringing it, getting it in tune, and then starting to play. And then the guitar would slowly detune itself as the strings stretched out, and then he would have to retune it. It would detune, retune it, it would detune. And what he finally did to allow himself to start doing the thing that the pros do of stretching the strings out as soon as they restrung the guitar was by deliberately dwelling in how annoyed and irritated he felt in those moments where the guitar was getting detuned and he was having to adjust the tuning. It was that deliberately paying attention and emphasizing and amplifying the annoyance that was necessary for him. And I've seen the same thing be the case for other neurospicy folks, myself included. We can be really good at anticipatory dread about things like boredom, and that keeps us from ever doing the task in the first place. But when we're in the middle of something that's annoying us, we are more likely to have our mind jump around to 15 other places and, use that to not necessarily notice the annoyance, which can be a really useful strategy unless you want to make it less likely that you keep doing the thing that is leading to that annoyance. In this case, not stretching out the strings. So what might this look like when it doesn't come to playing guitar, which may not be something that everybody does, right? It might look like, for instance, the next time that you are having to hand scrub a dish because all the dishes in the sink are dirty because you didn't feel like doing the boring thing of loading and running the dishwasher, that you allow yourself to really pay attention to how annoyed you are in that moment that you're hand scrubbing the dish. Overall, the goal is to increase that sense of friction or dislike on the side of the behavior that previously had felt like the easiest behavior. Simultaneously, if you can do things to reduce the friction of the behavior that you do want to have more of, that will also help you out, right? So in my husband's case, this looked like getting a attachment for his drill that made it faster to tune the knob so that it wasn't as slow to engage in the initial tuning with the stringing, so that he was not then as bothered about doing the extra step of stretching the strings. For something like toothbrushing, it might look like putting the toothbrush and toothpaste right next to maybe the kitchen sink or somewhere that you're going to be anyways just after eating, so that it's just like it's right there. I can just quickly go ahead and floss and brush my teeth while I'm already standing at a sink. It doesn't feel like as much of a separate step. Now, for those of you who are psychology nerds, you might notice that yesterday I was talking about self-determination theory, and today I'm talking about a strategy that's much more behavioralist in nature. Yes, they are very different approaches. I tend to find different things work for different situations, and when we're talking about simple things like shifting habits to be more aligned with what you want to do, I sometimes find that the little behavioralist tricks are simpler rather than the big environmental changes that something like self-determination theory would suggest.